I go a little bit big picture. I don't really care about Andrew Windsor. I don't certainly intend to lose any sleep about the privations he will hopefully suffer. I don't particularly care about his ex-wife either. I've got quite a lot of sympathy for his children. But I don't know them. Maybe they don't deserve any. The more you look at it, the madder the whole business looks. And how does the disgrace, the unprecedented, that's an overused word, but today it really fits, the unprecedented disgrace of Andrew Windsor affect the whole shebang?
Not in the wake of my Uncle Andrew. He was embroiled in a shameful scandal, accused of the sexual assault of a young woman, and no one had so much as suggested that he lose his security. Whatever grievances people had against us, sex crimes weren't on the list.
His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse.
It's kind of ironic for a person who titled their book Nobody's Girl, who ends up turning out to be many, many, many people's hero. Let's get into it. Happy Halloween, everybody. I guess Charles decided to come in hot with a little spooky season of his own and exile his brother. It's about damn time, in the words of LeBron James. But I have to say, I wasn't expecting that yesterday. I decided to talk about something else because I did want to talk about fashion. And I knew that a lot of people would be talking about the situation with Andrew. So I was like, okay, cool, they got it. And I did want to collect my thoughts. My thoughts are still not fully collected. I genuinely feel like, one, it's bittersweet because one, it took forever and a day. And I don't feel like this is real justice. This is the royal family doing what they do, which is trying to cover their own asses. But this isn't justice, but it's a start. What would be real justice is if he were to serve jail time. Genuinely. That is the only thing that will satiate me. But I can also, at the same time, nuance, I can still recognize that this is an excellent start. Now, should it have happened 1,000,001 years ago? Yes. Should it have happened when these allegations first surfaced? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is it too little too late? No, because he's still alive. So he's still alive. He can still experience consequences. But I would love it if there were more to come by way of prison time. Since that is highly unlikely, I will take what I can get. Now, when I first saw the news that Andrew is no longer a prince, I genuinely was confused because I was like, no, wait a minute, what do you mean? And then I read the statement. I'm not really used to Charles being super direct in that way. Or I should say Buckingham Palace being super direct in that way. They didn't mince words. They wanted to make it very clear what they were doing. And in that way, I do appreciate that they didn't leave a lot up for guessing games because they know better than anyone how the media loves to spin because they utilize that service many, many, many times against other family members. But this isn't about that. This is about Andrew, Randy Andy, as I call him. Now, for me, not a whole lot is going to change. I don't call him Prince Andrew. I didn't call him Prince Andrew. I was more comfortable with Randy Andy, pedo, disgusting, beluga whale, piece of shit. I have a variety of names. None of them were honorable. None of them were royal. None of them were nice. And so I'll continue doing what I do. But for the rest of the world, I'm happy that they will join me in some capacity of dishonoring this disgrace as much and as often as possible. Randy Andy, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, disgusting disgrace, the nasty piece of crap you are. And I'm really happy globally people are shaming him. I love every couple of months when people remember what he's allegedly done and then everybody just decides to throw tomatoes at him. I absolutely love that. And it should happen a lot more. But at the same time, I do want to talk about this based on the facts, not just my feelings. I just want to get my feelings out of the way. But I watched a couple of news broadcasts discussing this and a couple of panels breaking it down. And then I also read 8 articles, my favorite being Feminagra. And so I decided to share the Feminagra article and parts of James O'Brien's broadcast for the LBC. So I will be bringing that to you today as well. Again, I will say this, and I want to make it very clear. I've gotten I've only gotten one comment, and she wanted to make it clear that she felt that Princess Eugenie and Beatrice were victims too, and that we shouldn't rope them in, and that they didn't do anything wrong, etc., etc. And while that is true, several things can be true at the same time. The only victims of Andrew were the victims of Andrew, the people he harmed. Those are the victims. At the same time, his entire family and anyone who's associated with him are impacted in a negative manner. They are not victims, but they are absolutely severely impacted, and that is not fair. That's not fair on a lot of levels. Now, my concern and my focus is always going to be on the victims. But I can also say, with the utmost empathy and sympathy, it is extremely unfair to put your children, your ex-wife, your family, extended family, associates, whomever else you've associated with publicly. It is extremely unfair to do what you've done and shine your disgusting pedo light on them and their legacies. They don't deserve that. Now, they are not victims, but they are absolutely impacted. But I want to make it clear, when I question why Princess Eugenie decided to go into the field of work that she decided to go into, which is anti-slavery, anti-exploitation, anti-sex trafficking. She has Anti-Slavery Collective, her and a partner, and they have the Floodlight podcast that comes from that, and they educate the world on sex trafficking, human exploitation, all kinds of different ways that people are still being slaves, being forced into slavery around the world. And it's great work. I will never at any point shun her work. She does a wonderful job at what she does, and she definitely brings a spotlight, or should I say a floodlight, to these causes and to this issue. She's done incredible work in the field. Me asking what propelled her into that space is not me saying that she had anything to do with Andrew. And for Monica, who implied that, this channel is for adults. We don't put words in people's mouths. We can at the same time say it's very unfair that Eugenie and Beatrice have been impacted by this. We can also say that they have had no problem continuing to publicly support their father, knowing these allegations were out there. And so they're fully aware that they will be associated with him and the things he's accused of. And as long as they don't care, I don't either. Now, they have my empathy and sympathy because it's unfair that they have to consider that, but they have chosen to publicly support him. In the same way, Beatrice chose to go out with Piers Morgan. Princess Eugenie decided to get on a flight with Jeremy Clarkson. They've chosen to either not be involved in any capacity and to just continue to live their lives without any consideration or concern about the things that individuals are part of, and they have that right. But the public also has the right to ask those questions. Is it possible that she has either seen or heard or is fully aware, which is more likely, of what her dad is accused of, and wanted to make sure her legacy was, one, not tied into that, and two, that she was actually doing something to proactively help victims? Or it's not even really proactive. She was doing something to help victims of all types of exploitation, knowing what her dad was accused of. I can absolutely see that. And in that way, I would see that as very noble. But I do understand why people question it and ask the question of, wow, it's interesting that a father would be accused of something so heinous, and then his daughter would literally go into the field of work that is the direct antithesis of the things he's accused of. What an interesting and concerning coincidence. Good for her for going into that field of work. But it always leaves me with a little curiosity. And I asked this in the last video too, when we talked about the whole he chose not to use Duke of York thing anymore. I asked the same thing then. When I first learned of the work that Princess Eugenie was doing, I said it then. It's quite interesting that was a choice that she made. Now, what I will say is, in that video, in the comment section, I left the comments up. In the comment section, a lot of you shared information with me that I didn't even know about Sarah Ferguson and her ties to other people. And so with that said, I highly recommend going and checking out those comments and adding to that conversation, because we are still having that conversation over there. But what I will say, and I want to make it very clear, these conversations that I have on my channel are in no way meant to accuse anyone of anything who has not already been accused of anything. But I do have the right, and so do you, to ask questions, especially when there are parallels that are concerning. And that is actually what I feel. And if you are continuing to go into the public space with someone who is accused of something, no matter what your relationship is to them, you know all too well that you are publicly supporting this person, and you're okay with that. Do you deserve to be accused? No. But that's also not what I've done. I have said they chose to continue publicly supporting their father, knowing what he's accused of. They are fully aware that they will continue to be seen as supporting him. And for Princess Eugenie to continue to show up in public with him several times since these allegations have surfaced and continue to do to be in the field of work that she's in is quite a choice. And I do understand why people have questioned her authenticity in that space, but I don't question it. I don't know enough to question, and I don't know enough to defend. But I do understand both sides. I do understand people saying she is not her dad, and she doesn't deserve to be shunned from a field of work just because her dad is a potential predator. I get that completely. I have crazies in my family. Now, I don't get in pictures with them, and I don't show up anywhere with them, but they exist because we're related. But when I know they're going to be at the family function, you can see me next time. Not coming. I fully understand being related to crazy ass people, and I choose not to associate with them. That is my personal choice. And that is hers and her sister's as well.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
Is that she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17 years old.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
She was brought to London by convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. Like, his sweat was like, it was raining.
I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
It didn't last very long, the whole entire procedure. It was disgusting. He wasn't mean or anything, but he got up and he said thanks and walked out, and I sat there in bed just horrified and ashamed. It was a wicked time in my life. It was a really scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family.
Miss Historian penned an article for Feminagra titled Prince Andrew Exile to Sandringham, but still eighth in line to the throne. Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles has, quote, initiated a formal process to remove Prince Andrew's titles and honors. The statement is being signaled as a decisive royal act, yet constitutional experts quickly pointed out that this formal process carries little legal weight. This is why I absolutely love Feminagra. According to Craig Prescott, a constitutional scholar, the king may issue letters patent to remove Andrew's styles of prince and his royal highness, but Andrew's peerages, Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, and Baron Killelea, I'm not sure how to say that,
Baron Killelea,
as forms of property under law. They cannot be revoked without an act of parliament. Even if Andrew's name is struck from the roll of the peerage, the titles still exist. In other words, this royal punishment is more performance than power. It makes for a clean press release, but leaves the underlying privileges untouched. A palace declares guilt after years of silence. The palace framed the move as moral justice, citing sympathy for victims and survivors of abuse. Yet the same institution spent years shielding Andrew from accountability, silence reinforced by palace lawyers and media allies. The new statement does not mention criminal cooperation or formal questioning, only that Andrew will, quote, move to alternative private accommodation. That means relocation, not removal. Reports suggest he will live at Sandringham property privately funded by the king, with continued financial support and likely retained security. And here's what they pointed out, which I appreciate. It says, stripped of titles, but still eighth in line, because nothing says accountability like keeping a spot on the throne after a sex scandal, and he is still there at the 8th spot. Right after Sweet Lilibet. I want them to separate that. She doesn't need to be next to him in that line. Andrew's position within the constitutional framework also remains unchanged. He is still 8th in line to the throne and a counselor of state, meaning he could, under certain conditions, act as regent for a young monarch. Those roles are protected by acts of parliament beyond the king's reach. To remove them would require new legislation and agreement from other Commonwealth nations. This reveals the contradiction at the heart of Charles's act. The monarchy promises accountability while refusing the scrutiny that real accountability demands. A family protecting its own. Behind the legal theater lies a familiar story of image management. Andrew's exile to Sandringham may sound like justice, but it's another palace negotiation that protects what matters most: money, access, and silence. Even Sarah Ferguson, stripped of her Duchess title, has secured independent arrangements, reportedly under the same private financial umbrella that keeps Andrew comfortable. Former royal protection officers allege Andrew used palace security channels to conduct unauthorized background checks on Virginia Giuffre. Yet the palace's statement makes no mention of investigation or law enforcement cooperation. Despite years of mounting evidence, no inquiry has been opened into institutional complicity or the use of state resources for personal protection. Meanwhile, public sentiment is shifting. A Good Morning Britain poll this week found 53% of respondents now support abolishing the monarchy, citing Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein as proof of the House of Windsor is rotten to the core. That's true. The numbers reflect what Charles's statement cannot erase: the deep erosion of trust in royal accountability. Absolutely. Charles's words about victims and survivors ring hollow when weighed against years of silence and public-funded protection. The palace acted only when pressure made inaction untenable. As one former insider put it, quote, "They're not reforming, they're protecting the brand." Absolutely. And here are her final thoughts. King Charles's decision has been hailed as bold, but its legality is paper thin. Without Parliament, the act is symbolic, not structural. Andrew's privileges remain, his wealth untouched, his titles dormant, but not dead. The palace hopes the gesture will close a chapter. Instead, it opens a deeper question about the limits of royal power in a modern democracy. The monarchy cannot claim moral authority while evading legal accountability. Until the system itself faces scrutiny, Mr. Mountbatten Windsor will remain a symbol, not of disgrace, but of how privilege endures behind gilded walls.
The fact that it's not even true today, it's almost every newspaper. The Andrew, formerly known as Prince, yeah, well done, the son, we beat you to that as well. King removes style, titles and honours from brother. Andrew stripped of Prince title in historic move to save monarchy. Finally, says the Daily Mirror, Daily Mirror. King begins the process to strip Andrew of Prince title. He's ordered to leave Royal Lodge and Fergie's out too. Wills backs Charles's move amid yet more Epstein fallout. Royals say thoughts are with victims of all abuse. The royal formerly known as Prince, says the Daily Star. Andrew no longer Prince, says the Daily Telegraph. Andrew to be stripped of his royal titles and must move out of home, says the Guardian. Andrew stripped of his Prince title and home, says the Times. Humiliation for Reeves as she changes her stories, says the Daily Mail. Sometimes I wonder whether I'm exaggerating about how bonkers everybody in that building has gone. But deciding that the biggest story in town is their rapidly deflating balloon of manufactured fury about Rachel Reeves is, even by the standards of the Daily Mail, a moment of well, I mean, they've put the word humiliation in red, which seems to be a fairly reliable example of what I believe is called projection. The national narrative does not prioritise victims. If it did, then at the moment that 12 million quid was handed over to a young woman who accused the Queen's son of having had sex with her in return for money she received from Jeffrey Epstein, then this decision would have been taken at that moment. It's perfectly possible that he gave 12 million quid to her for no reason whatsoever, apart from entirely unfounded allegations, but it seems, I think we could all agree, unlikely. You know, he denies it all, but he hasn't really explained why he's given her 12 million quid of his late mother's money.
Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. James O'Brien put that beautifully. I don't know that I have anything to add. He covered everything. But what I will say, at the time of recording this video, 13 minutes ago, the BBC Live is reporting that there are no plans to remove Andrew from the line of succession after losing his royal titles, government says. And the summary goes as follows. The government says it has no plans to pass a law to formally remove Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from the line of succession. Andrew remains 8th in line to the throne, and it would take an act of parliament to formally remove him. Passing a law to change that would be complex, writes our political reporter. Buckingham Palace announced on Thursday that Andrew would lose all his royal titles and leave his 30-room mansion in Windsor, but he won't leave Royal Lodge immediately, sources say. The dramatic statement on Thursday night came after months of pressure over Andrew's private life. In a posthumous memoir published this month, Virginia Giuffre repeated allegations that, as a teenager, she had sex with Andrew on 3 separate occasions. Andrew has always denied the claims. I want to pause there because I even heard this repeated in the news broadcast from CBS that I showed, and I'm seeing it here too from the BBC. It is imperative that we get this right. At no point did Virginia Giuffre say that she had sex with Prince Andrew. She said she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew. That, by definition, is rape. And she was forced to because she was sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, friends of Prince Andrew. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, preferably known as Randy Andy. She did not, quote, have sex. That implies consent. And yes, even if she were, quote unquote, consenting at 17 years old, she is not able to consent because she is a minor. So even if she, quote unquote, thought she, quote, wanted to, that was never stated. That's not something she ever implied. And she has always maintained that she was forced to. The choice was not hers. Even if she were an adult under those circumstances, she would have still been raped. And I want to be mindful of not saying that too many times because YouTube will pull my video down. But I want to be very clear. These summaries, these news broadcasts, these videos, these blah, 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 they're all saying it in a way that almost implies there's this underlying question of consent, and there simply is not. At no point did she say she wanted to. As a matter of fact, in the CBS interview, she said she felt disgusted with herself, which completely broke my heart, because that was not shame that she should have had to wear or feel or experience. It's natural for victims to feel that way, but it's so damn unfair. And it's just another leg of the travesty against victims. When you victimize someone, you're not only physically harming them, you are emotionally and mentally harming them. This woman eventually, allegedly committed suicide. So I would go on to say that this weighed very heavily on her. That doesn't sound too goddamn consensual to me. So I would love it but I know that I can't even convince these people to use Meghan's real name. I highly doubt that I can get them to start using the correct terminology when it comes to Virginia Giuffre. These people are determined to misrepresent. Even though I get that they're reporting this as they're receiving it, it is up to the platform to report things correctly. Virginia Giuffre never said she consensually had sex with Andrew. Even if that is something she said, although it's not, even if she had said that, she was a minor. So on 2 different levels, there was no consent. So they should stop reporting it this way. And since I'm speaking of it, I want to call it out. That is not sex. That is rape. Anyway, sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure I said this. And then Virginia's brother, Sky Roberts, welcomes the king's move against Andrew, but he told the BBC Newsnight, quote, "It's not enough. We have to have some sort of investigation that goes further into this." I agree. I completely agree with him. Now, the BBC went on to say, Andrew announcement fuels street name renaming debate. The stripping of Andrew's titles has fueled debate about renaming places that bear his name. Next month, councillors in Northern Ireland will debate a proposal to rename Prince Andrew Way. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try my best to say this correctly. Carrickfergus County, Antrim? It's not the only Northern Irish street named after the former prince. In the South Belfast area, there is also a Prince Andrew Gardens that leads to a Prince Andrew Park. My goodness. In County Tyrone, I did not know y'all had a County Tyrone. That's so interesting. I love that, actually. In County Tyrone, there is a Prince Andrew Crescent in Moygashel, the sign for which has been defaced in the past. Good for y'all. These calls follow a decision in January this year by the Duke of York pub in Fitzrovia, London, to change the image on its sign from Andrew's likeness to a historical rendering of the grand old Duke of York. Now, I have to say this too. How is it that these things weren't changed already? I get that he has always denied these allegations. He's never said that he did this, and he was not found guilty in a court of law. But I would have to say, after the settlement, although there was, quote, no guilt found by legal standards, after the settlement, just like James O'Brien said, he's always denied the claims. However, how many of you would spend $12 million for something you didn't do? It's just unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely. But I would have to say after the settlement, No one felt inclined to change these things then, just to keep it on the safe side? Just no? After the photos of him and Jeffrey Epstein running around came out, y'all didn't know? After the allegations by Virginia Giuffre in the interview, no? After Nobody's Girl was announced, much less came out earlier this month, no? Okay. I don't understand that decision, but I do understand saying, hey, anyone can accuse anyone of anything. Let's see how this plays out. But there has been more than enough time for you guys to make a moral decision and say, it's just too murky. Although we can't confirm guilt, it's just a little too murky in the water to keep these faces up. I would imagine if I were wanting to go out to a pub and I saw Andrew's ugly ass mug, I would go somewhere else. What do you mean you put a disgusting beluga whale on your sign and want me to come in and consume anything edible? I'm not going to trust your judgment. You can't even decide what kind of face you want on a place that sells edibles and drinks and food and things you want me to consume into my body. Why would you put something so disgusting on your sign? I don't trust your judgment. Let me see that kitchen. I bet it's not even clean. Anyway, I would have removed him from all of these things already. But I do get that there are a lot of steps, especially when it comes to the street renaming and the park renaming, etc. But the call made by the pub to change it to the Grand Old Duke of York instead of Andrew's face, I can't imagine why y'all want to put Andrew's face up there anyway. Like, even without these allegations, that's quite a choice. But then you have the added layer of these allegations, and I'm befuddled. But that's just me. Also, y'all have a county Tyrone, so I am looking at you somewhat favorably, so I'm going to take the heat off of you a little bit. The BBC continues, Royal Lodge, the house Andrew will soon leave, is just a short walk from the Prince and Princess of Wales' new home. William and Kate are set to move into Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park, an 8-bedroom home which is just 1.34 miles, 2.15 kilometers from Royal Lodges as the crow flies. William and Catherine's move has been characterized as a fresh start after a challenging period that included the princess's cancer diagnosis. BBC, y'all learned, we had to be careful with this. She had precancerous cells removed. Very serious situation. Good for her that she moved forward. She allegedly had chemo as part of their treatment. That is not the same thing as a cancer diagnosis. And William is the one who told us that. So it's not like we're getting this from random sources. William is the person who put that out into the world, that there were only precancerous cells found. That's very serious, but that is not a cancer diagnosis, thanks to the hundreds of medical professionals who came out to clarify those statements, because they were very murky. Anyway, also, yes, I get needing a fresh start after something so, terrible or whatever. I don't know too many people who need to move homes because they had a medical issue. I can understand if there were accommodations needed, like if you were to need a ramp now, or if you needed to change from having a bi-level home to a ranch-style home, or if you needed, shorter distance between rooms and bathrooms and kitchens and stuff. I can understand changing homes for practical reasons. As a pragmatic person myself, yeah, sure, let's do what needs to be done so we can have the best quality of life possible. But I can't imagine needing a, quote, fresh start just for the hell of it. That implies that there was more to get a fresh start from. That implies that there was a lot more going on. And we know what allegations were coming out around that time. There were several different allegations coming out around that time. There were the allegations that Prince William was cheating on Kate with Rose Hanbury. I mean, that went really far, and that had been going on for years, and it's still going on. The rumors, I don't know about the affair, the rumors are saying that they're still going on. And then we also had the added bonus of Kate and Charles being named, allegedly, as the royal racists who made comments about little Prince Archie's skin when he was still in utero, and worried that he was going to be too dark. So we have the royal racism, and then we have the cheatation allegations, as Trina Braxton puts it, and then you have the random ass 2 different royals get cancer in the same month. Like, okay, girl, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. But we have all these things going on at the same time, and I do understand needing a fresh start after all that, but it is weird that y'all would need a fresh start after just the precancerous cells. Okay, sure. It just sounds gluttonous to me, especially for a couple or the husband within a couple who claims he wants to eradicate homelessness, and then he owns several extremely large, oversized, disgustingly rich homes, or disgustingly expensive homes that he himself doesn't have to work to pay for. You pay for that. But anyway, just on an optics level alone, it's disgusting and it shows poor judgment. But let's continue. Quote, "It's an opportunity to leave some of the more unhappy memories behind," a royal source told us earlier this year. There had been some speculation Andrew could move into another Windsor property, but his move to Sandringham means the future king and queen will have distance, literally, from the scandal-hit former prince. And then he goes on to say, Buckingham Palace has confirmed Andrew will be moving some 140 miles northeast of Windsor Mansion to Sandringham and away from senior royals like the King and Queen who reside in London and the Prince and Princess of Wales. Some assumed Andrew would move from Royal Lodge to another property in Windsor, Frogmore Cottage, for example. I am looking at y'all crazy. Royal biographer Robert Hardman told the BBC earlier, quote, "But no," he says, "he's off the estate. He's out of Windsor. He's out of Royal Berkshire. He's been sent up the M11 to the royal equivalent of Siberia to sit in Sandringham for the rest of his life. Well, may it be short." Quote, "This is, some might say brutal, others might say definitive, and I might say not enough. In the illustrious words of Kendrick Lamar, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. He should be in jail. He better be glad all he got is Sandringham, because he should be sitting in a cell, a jail cell, making sandwiches for his roommate who's threatening to knock his ass all around that room. That's what he deserves." But listen, I don't always get what I want. So I'm going to take what I can get, but I really would love for more to come. And I completely agree with Virginia Giuffre's brother that it's not enough. But it's a move in the right direction for now. Anyway, y'all let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I can't shame Andrew enough, so have at it in my comment section. Please keep it clean, but don't keep it nice. Keep it clean and keep it mean. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on this. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you would like, and please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween for everyone who celebrates. I hope you get lots and lots and lots of really good candy and treats. I will be having a buffet. My husband and I have an annual tradition of we make a little rib buffet. We buy a lot of ribs with different seasonings, different sauces, a little variety. And then we get a lot of French fries, a lot of different types of fries. And then we have a little candy buffet. And then we binge movies until the break of dawn. We've done this every year for 13 years. And it's probably one of my favorite celebrations throughout the year. I love it so much. So I am excited. Bone Daddies, you guys will be seeing me later to come pick up my order. That's all I have. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.